All right, guys, welcome back to our Jacksonville Jaguars rebuilding series. Today, episode number 8 coming at you. First of all, my apologies for last episode. I felt horrible releasing that video when we had no source footage for off-season acquisitions because of a lack of hard drive space, pardon me. And then we had the lost clip from the end. So, but the last 20 minutes, me going through the rosters, we lost all that footage, and once I had lost it, I'd already advanced a few weeks, and so I wasn't able to record new footage. So I apologize for that. Today should be back to our polished content that I'm very proud to provide you guys. I always try to give you guys the absolute best of what I can provide and nothing less. But anyways, here we go. Jacksonville Jaguars Season 3. Season 1 finished with a mostly disappointing year, though we had a very young roster, finishing 3-13. We were 0-8 at the midway point 2 years ago. Last season, we started off 3-1. Injuries derailed the season, and we finished off 7-9, just 2 games out of a playoff spot in the AFC. We are now at the midway point at season number 3, actually the midway point of the series, because, of course, the goal is to win a Super Bowl within the first 5 seasons of taking over this team. And well, here we go. Let's start talking about this team's success. We'll bring you up to the box scores here, and here we go. You'll see our record in just one moment. After 8 games, the Jacksonville Jaguars sit at boom, an impressive 6-2. The Jacksonville Jaguars opened up the season with 5 consecutive wins, and after a couple slip-ups, those games influenced a little bit by injuries, though I won't completely blame them on injuries, because though we've had our fair share, I think we're about on par probably for an average number of injuries that have taken place. Eugene Monroe's injury, season-long injury aside. But we're going to quickly go down, same order as always. We're going to start by running down these box scores. We started the season off visiting the New England Patriots. The Patriots, by the way, were finalists in the Super Bowl last season. They played the New York Giants. Obviously a very famous matchup. The New England Patriots lost the Super Bowl to the Giants in both 2007 and 2012. And in this little Madden world we've created, they replayed the Super Bowl. Pardon me, I think it was 2011. My apologies. Patriots. The following year was the 49ers Ravens. Subsequent year, obviously being this most recent Super Bowl, Seahawks over Broncos. So 2007, 2011, and then boom, 2014 last year. Third consecutive time the Giants have taken them, which means that in our 2 seasons so far, the Titans and the Giants have won Super Bowls. So the Patriots playing their first game since the Super Bowl. Guess who takes the quarterback duel? That is Juan Delian, beating out future Hall of Famer Tom Brady. 320 yards for Delian. 1 touchdown, 1 pick apiece for those 2 guys. However, Delian slightly higher completion percentage, and he finishes with 7 points higher on the QBR scale. Rushing the ball, Cedric Pierman ran the ball very well for New England, 112 yards and a touchdown. However, Denard Robinson played very well. Our offseason signing, halfback Stephen Ridley missed the first 3 weeks of the season. But Robinson played very well, scoring a touchdown in his wake. We also did a great job on Ofisa Kose, who had 9 carries for just 8 yards. Receiving the ball, Justin Blackman doing what he does best, doing what he got paid to do this past offseason with his contract extension. 108 yards off 9 catches. Golden Tate, Eric Decker, Gronkowski all chipping in nice games for New England. Michael Crabtree, 83 yards, 6 catches in his Jaguars debut. Cecil Shorts, the third head of that 3-headed receiving monster, also finishing with 80-plus yards, which is great to see. Defensively speaking, Dwayne Gratz led the game with 10 tackles. Surprising that that's coming from the cornerback spot, but that's okay. DeMarcus Ware had a sack in his Jacksonville Jaguars debut, while Terrell Jefferson kicked in a pick for the Jags. Devin McCourty kicking one in for the Patriots. Also, at this point of the season, our 2 starting defensive ends were Thaddeus Gibson and DeMarcus Ware. So our first pick from this past year's draft, the 4th overall selection, Earl Shorter, sitting on the bench, though he did eventually begin starting in about week 5, thanks to a Thaddeus Gibson injury, a position that he's held since then. Justin Tucker 4 for 4 in his Jaguars debut. Josh Brown 1 for 1 for the Patriots. Brian Anger actually getting beaten out by Chaz Henry here in the punting battle. And in his Jaguar debut, Brandon Banks 25 yards per kick return and 6.8 yards per punt return. Banks has not been lighting it up yet so far this season, unfortunately, but he's been consistent. Decent return numbers on average. Here was a game that took us to the Meadowlands, another AFC East matchup where we went into New York and we hammered the Jets 27-3. Juan Delian missed the last half of this game. It's the only injury he's suffered so far in his career. So Matt Scott came in and performed admirably. 127 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks for him. Delian over 200 yards again, 211, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Impressive considering that he only played half the game. Meanwhile, rookie quarterback Dillian Goodrich, not the strongest game for the Jets by any means. Juan Delian, Matt Scott, their numbers adding up to a very nice performance. Running the ball, Denard Robinson, stellar again, 12 carries, 69 yards. In his career debut, Davon Armstrong, one of our selections from this past year's draft, 11 carries, 40 yards. And we did a nice job on the defensive side of the ball, holding Mike Goodson to 12 carries and just 38 yards. Receiving-wise, Justin Blackman led the game again. That's going to be a common theme this year. And you can see our three-headed monster leading the way in this one. Blackman, Shorts, and Crabtree all over 65 yards receiving. Davon Armstrong scores his first career touchdown, 4 receptions, 20 yards for him. And you can see there we have not one, but 5 Jaguars with higher receiving numbers than the best Jets receiver on the day, who was Mike Goodson with 4 catches, 32 yards. Santonio Holmes also chipping in 33 yards on 2 catches. Defensively, Kendrick Lewis led the way for the Jets, 14 tackles for him. Leading the way for the Jags, Earl Zoe Shorter, who got into this one, had 2 sacks in a rotational role. A great game for him, just his second career second career game, 2 sacks, wonderful stuff. Brandon Merriweather had the game's only interception. Kicking the ball, Justin Tucker was 2 for 3. Josh Scobie, a player with whom we are very familiar, went 1 for 1. Punting the ball, Brian Anger bested again. Surprising considering he's in a contract year and wants a huge amount of money. That being aside, nothing spectacular to report in the punting or kick return game, which will take us to game number 3. The Jaguars' third straight win. This one at home against a very good Viking squad. Tight score in this one, 24-21. By the way, the Jacksonville Jaguars rebuilt a deluxe canopy stadium for this season. The Jaguars' original stadium was going out of style like bell-bottom jeans, and so we built a new stadium this offseason, and this would have been its opening day, which saw the Jaguars take it to the Minnesota Vikings, edging them by 3. Juan Delian, 269, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Another stellar game for the second-year man. Derek Gletzer, another second-year quarterback, 252 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. A good game, but not as nice as Mr. Delian. Running the ball, Adrian Peterson, all things being considered, not horribly disappointed at the game we had. Trying to contain a guy as explosive as Peterson, never easy. He had 129 yards off 26 carries, but no touchdowns. Robinson, solid game, 83 yards off 21 carries. You can see there the impact of the adjustments we've made on our offensive line, most specifically with Rob Hardy coming in, the 22-year-old rookie at the center spot, using his solid strength to open holes there. Davon Armstrong, 23 yards off 6 carries. And another guy we're very familiar with, Michael LaShore, kicking in 9 yards off 3 carries for the Vikings. Receiving-wise, Greg Jennings led the way, 10 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown. Leading the way for the Jags, Michael Crabtree, 4 catches for 54 yards. Blackman kicking in a receiving touchdown, along with Ryan Otten, our third tight end, who doesn't get to a lot of games, but he did today. And Taylor Thompson being the third recipient, our top tight end. Darrell Washington led the game in tackles with 12. Surprise, surprise. Sacks in this one, 1 for Washington, 1 for DeMarcus Ware. Good for his second on the campaign. Jonathan Cyprin, the rookie sensation, got his first pick of the year there. Justin Tucker, 1 for 2 in the kicking game. He's not off to a great start, unfortunately. Not a pathetic one, but certainly not the one we were hoping for. Anger bested for the 3rd consecutive game of the punting game. Maybe part of that is just because he doesn't have as much work. It used to be last season, or certainly our first season in Jacksonville. Every single game we played, Brian Anger had, 8 to 12 punts a game. Nowadays, that number's been cut in half. Here, game number 4 at Green Bay to play the Packers. This was a licking, 45-14. Juan Delian, 300-yard game again, 304, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Aaron Rodgers, meanwhile, ugly, 188 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions. And if we look at the stats, the defensive stats, that is, in a moment, we're going to see that all 3 of Aaron Rodgers' picks actually went for pick sixes, which is phenomenal. Stephen Ridley, 72 yards off 20 carries in his Jaguar debut, coming back from injury. Denard Robinson, 44 yards off 11 carries, 1 touchdown, though he did have a fumble. Marcus Maddox, the lead runner for the Green Bay Packers, averaging just 2.7 yards per carry in this one. Linval Joseph, those guys in the middle, doing a great job. Doug Baldwin is the leading receiver for the Packers today. Stephen Ridley, however, was the leading receiver for the Jags. 98 yards receiving off 4 receptions. Had a touchdown, his longest 75 yards, likely taking a screen pass the distance for him. Blackman, the leading wide receiver in this one for the Jags, 62 yards off 6 catches and a touchdown. He is flourishing in that top receiving role. Jerron McMillan led the game with 10 tackles. Washington had 9 right behind him. Sacks in this one, there were 0, none to mention. Our offensive line is also tightened up, which is great. And our 3 picks, Xavier Gooden, Demetrius McCray, Antoine Blake, check this out. All of them go for touchdowns. The 1 pick that Delian threw is also a pick 6. That's got to be some kind of record. 4 pick 6s in one game. Ridiculous. Justin Tucker went 1 for 1. Mason Crosby missed his only attempt. And 4th consecutive game, Anger gets out punted. But again, the nice thing is that he only has to punt 6 times a game, which is great. Again, way down from his average a couple of years ago. If anyone cares to calculate that, put that in the comments. From episode, that would have been episode number 3 of this series, the recap of season 1. My goodness, here we go. 2nd game ever at the new Jaguar Stadium. We beat the Tennessee Titans, just over 1 year removed from a Super Bowl championship. We take it to our division foes. Charlie Mosley, their quarterback, threw for just 79 yards, 2 picks, good for a QBR of 9.4. Meanwhile, Juan Delian, not a ton of yards, just 192, but 3 touchdowns to 1 pick, which I love. His completion percentage way up again. 60%, not bad at all. Stephen Ridley, solid today, 86 yards, 23 carries. Not a great average, but it shows how much we're willing to run the ball and control the clock, with Denard Robinson also kicking in 10 carries for an impressive 74 yards. Chris Johnson, the Titans running back, 16 carries, 51 yards, good for an average of just 3.2. Davon Armstrong also kicking in 5 carries, Juan Delian kicking in 3. All things being said, that's over 40 carries for the Jags, which I love. Allows us to control the clock and keep the ball out of the hands of the offense of the opposing squad. Justin Blackman, again, at the top of the charts, 8 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown. Corey Fuller also kicked one in here. This was the first game, I believe, that saw Michael Crabtree miss time. He missed weeks 5 to 6 with a dislocated elbow, and so Blackman, Shorts were our top 2 receivers. Corey Fuller also getting more time. Drick Haskell also getting more looks. Surprised to see Haskell with smaller numbers than Fuller, being that he's higher on the depth chart, but who knows? We are running a spread offense this year, so the 4th receiver is getting a lot more time. Zach Brown leading the way in the game with tackles, leading the Jaguars. Xavier Gooden with 7. Tackles for a loss. Here we go. We have, oopsies. Here we go. Tackles for a loss. 2 for Earl Zoe Shorter, who also kicked in a sack. DeMarcus Ware doing the same thing. INTs. We had 3 in this game. Xavier Gooden and Demetrius McCray kicking them in for the Jags. Though, do we have touchdowns in this one? No touchdowns in this one. That's okay, though. Sometimes that happens. Justin Tucker going 2 for 3 in this one. No attempts by the Titans. Punts. Brian Anger bested again. Yeah, it's all good. we'll forgive him. Punt returns, kick return game. A decent punt return. Brandon Banks rattling off a 40-yarder in this one. Hopefully he can rattle off a few touchdowns before the end of the year. And there we go. Now we're up to our first loss. This was a disappointing loss because the Bills, I believe, are 1-4 coming into this game. This will be the first loss that the Jags ever suffer at their new home. 23-14, the final score. Jeff Toole, just 139 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Not a stellar game from him by any means. However, Juan Delian had a worse game. 254 yards, great output there, but just one touchdown to 3 picks is never going to do it. Running the ball, C.J. Spiller, effective. 23 carries, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns. Darius Allen, not as effective, but still chewing up the clock with those carries. And we handed off the ball in this game for some reason just 8 times to Stephen Ridley. 15 carries. He had a touchdown, but that average is pathetic. Drake Haskell had 1 carry. Corey Fuller had 1 carry. But I don't know where Denard Robinson was in this one. Shake my head at that. Receiving, Taylor Thompson finally putting in some output. Taylor Thompson wants more than $5 million to come back next season. He might get it if he's consistently putting up numbers like this. If it's just once in a while, he can go on to greener pastures, and we'll find somebody to take his place. But 68 yards off 10 carries or 10 catches, that's what I like to see. Justin Blackman, 47 off 5. The receiving touchdown, this one for the Jags, going to Derek Carrier, our second tight end. Defensively, Manny Lawson, Darrell Washington leading this one with 11 tackles apiece. Lawson had 4 tackles for a loss, which is ridiculous, all of which were sacks. He was eating up Bruce Campbell in this one, no doubt. Also kicking in sacks in this game for the Jags, DeMarcus Ware had 1. Thaddeus Gibson had the other. INTs in this one, 2 for Richard Marshall and 1 for Jarius Byrd. Kicking the ball, Dustin Hopkins, 3 for 3. Punting the ball, Brian Anger bested again. My goodness. Kick returns, boom. Punt returns, boom. Nothing too interesting there. On to the next one. So the Jacksonville Jaguars fall to the Buffalo Bills, losing their first game of the season. At that point, we would have had a 5-1 record. Then we host the Chargers, and we lost this one as well. Mick Jennings, rookie QB, coming in playing well. 203 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Nothing flashy, but you know, he didn't make any mistakes. Juan Delian, meanwhile, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns is great, but 2 picks, too many. Felix Jones was mostly corralled as the running back of the San Diego Chargers, 73 yards, 24 carries. But credit the Chargers again for sticking to the run. Evan Royster, his backup, also kicking in 5 carries. Stephen Ridley was corralled in this game, 13 carries for 24 yards. Also, I don't have it in my notes here, but Denard Robinson must have been hurt for these games because, my goodness, he's just nowhere on this list. Mind you, that does not explain why Davon Armstrong did not get any carries because there's Denard, for whatever reason, just not getting the action. We only hand the ball off 13 times in this one. Disappointing. Receiving the ball, Drake Haskell, great game. 9 catches, 68 yards. Justin Blackman, 8 for 75 and a touchdown. Future Hall of Famer Antonio Gates kicking in a touchdown, 47 yards for the Chargers. Michael Crabtree also kicking in a touchdown. This was his return to the lineup. This was also a game, unfortunately, that saw us lose Cecil Shorts for the season to a groin tear injury, which is too bad. Obviously, Cecil Short's a very important part of this team. But fortunately, we brought in Michael Crabtree for a reason, and now we have the depth to hopefully absorb that loss as much as it sucks. Also, this week saw us lose Darrell Washington for 3 games to a knee cartilage tear, which is why Ray Lewis is so high on the list with 7 tackles. But again, a big part of being a great team that can play well into the fall and the winter to compete in the playoffs is about having depth, and that's where guys like Ray Lewis and Michael Crabtree step up. Xavier Gooden leading the game with 12 tackles in the sack department. DeMarcus Ware pulls down a deuce. INTs, meanwhile, 1 for Chris Culliver, a former Jaguar, and Colt Garman, the other one at the strong safety spot. In this game, Justin Tucker, 2 for 4. Ouch. He made a 50-yarder, but that doesn't mean much when you miss 1 from 40 to 49 and a second 50-yarder. Not cutting it. Finally, Brian Anger gets a win in the punting game. Brandon Banks, 3 returns Oh, excuse me. Big sneeze. Still a little under the weather these days, folks. Just can't shake this cold. Just can't shake it sometimes. But what we did shake with the Jaguars here is our losing streak. Our mini 2-game losing streak stops here in Houston against another division foe, which is great. Always important to get those divisional games down. We won this game by a score of 27-9. This will be our final game. Again, this is what propelled us to a 6-2 start this season. Deli in another 300-yard game, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Meanwhile, Anthony Hendrick, rookie QB for the Houston Texans, 205 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. However, just a 39% completion percentage, not good. And Denard Robinson, finally back, finally a part of the offense, and amazing things happen so far this season when that's the case. 47 yards off 7 carries. Also, I'd like to take this moment to announce that Denard Robinson, from this point forward for this season, will be the starting running back of the Jaguars. Stephen Ridley, more of a grinding back, has had some success this year. However, I find it too difficult to ignore the perennial success of Robinson when he's in the mix. And so Robinson's going to be getting the balance of the carries. His average this season is way up. We'll go to the season stats in just a moment to confirm exactly that. However, Ridley still wants to keep him involved. Still a great change of pace behind Robinson. But Robinson just simply more effective than Ridley at this point, which is a great surprise. Always great when somebody overperforms. Receiving wise, Drake Haskell led the game with 7 catches. He kicked in a touchdown. Crabtree over 100 yards, 104 off 6 catches, and a touchdown as well. Blackman 75 yards, 6. DeAndre Hopkins led the game for the Houston Texans, 97 yards off 6 catches. Defensively, Kelvin Shepard and Dwayne Gratz led the game, 10 tackles apiece. In the sack department, Julian Stanford, Whitney Marcellus kicking it in for their teams respectively. No INTs to report in this one, though. You saw, just for a brief moment there, Billy Wynn, another former Jaguar, playing for the Houston Texans. He was a preseason cut. Justin Tucker was 100% today, 4 for 4. Jay Feely, 3 for 3 for the Texans. Punting game, boom. Kick returns, boom. Punt returns, boom. Again, we're hoping for bigger things from Brandon Banks down the stretch. Here we go on to season stats now. We're going to run these quick just because at the midway point, season stats don't mean a whole lot. They mean a lot more come the end of the season. And we'll just follow this up really quick with current Pro Bowl standings and current awards projections, so to speak. Juan Delian, QBR is kind of low, which is disappointing. Just 79. That's going to come from the multitude of interceptions he's thrown the last while. However, 2,100 yards for a sophomore QB in the NFL is pretty phenomenal. On pace for more than 4,000 yards, which is great. On pace for 30 touchdowns, which is great. Got to keep the INTs a little lower, but his completion percentage of 58%, boom, solid. Matt Scott, great in relief, running the ball. Here's where you see the numbers. Denard Robinson, 80 carries, 406 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. That is stellar. He's also kept his fumbling problem, which has been a big reason why he's had a lack of playing time in the past. So he seems to have fixed that. Part of the reason is because when we go through player progression, though you won't see it, we did recently upgrade his carrying again, but then also he braces versus all hits now, so much less likely to fumble the ball away. Stephen Ridley, 238 yards off 77 carries, 1 touchdown, just 3.1 yards per carry. Not doing a stellar job. Passable, I guess, not stellar. Davon Armstrong, 95 yards off 29 carries, and you can read the rest of the list for yourself. Just a few guys left. Justin Blackman on pace for another 1,000-yard season. That would be his 3rd straight. 565 so far this campaign off, 52 catches, 4 touchdowns. Clearly, this is a guy who loves working with Juan Delian at QB. Taylor Thompson, 35 catches, 256 yards and a touchdown. Michael Crabtree, 420 off 29 catches, 2 touchdowns for him. Cecil Shorts, whose season was cut short due to injury, is going to finish the year with 28 catches off 325 yards off 28 catches. Rounding this out, Drake Haskell, 23 catches for 224 yards and a touchdown. Stephen Ridley, 18, 175 and a score. And lastly, Derek Carrier, 10 catches for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. A huge number of touchdowns for a dude who doesn't get into that game a whole lot. Fuller, Armstrong, Reese, and Otten also chipping in TDs. Blocking wise, the only stat we're really concerned with is if this will ever load. Please tell me this game did not freeze. Are you kidding me? Really? Come on. I've never had a game freeze while recording. I might have to restart this whole thing, which would be a huge pain in the rear end. Are you kidding me? Yes, I will have to do that. All right, I'll be back. All right, so we're back. Sorry about that. That took me less than 15 minutes to get set back up. I apologize. My PS3 has never frozen, whether I was recording or not, but fortunately that's all done. We're on to our blocking stats now. Just a quick update as to the amount of games different guys have played, because last year was worse than this year, but we do have a lot of guys who have missed significant amount of time. For example, William Campbell is not a starter on this team. He's a backup. He's played the third most of anybody in terms of games played and downs. Reason being, he started off the season in place of Keithan Cross, who was injured, and has since been in place for Brandon Mosley. So Cross misses the first, I think it was 5 games of the year. Then Mosley has missed every game subsequently. So he's been a busy man. Jokel and Hardy, the only 2 full-time starters who have yet to get hurt this season. Obviously, Eugene Monroe will not play this year, so that time has been taken over mostly by Bruce Campbell, though Marcel Jones has taken 3 of those games. The first game of the season, which I was shocked we won for this reason, Jason Slowey started at left tackle, our backup center. Not a great fit there, but he had to play because all 3 of our left tackles were injured. And our backup right tackle, Byron Bell, who's really a big project at this point, was available, but not as strong as Slowey. So Slowey had to start at left tackle, and hey, didn't allow a sack. As for the sack allowance, we've done quite well this year. Bruce Campbell's allowed 4 in 4 games, which is way too many. However, Campbell, just 2 in 8 starts, not bad for a backup. And then Hardy, Jokel, and Jones, guys who have played huge minutes this year, just 1 apiece. So very acceptable along the offensive line. Tackles, Xavier Gooden leading the way with 53, Washington 48. He'd be in first if it weren't for his injury. Dwayne Gratz and Demetrius McCray, a huge amount for 2 corners, which is interesting to me, 42 and 30 respectively. Blake with 29, Ray Lewis with 29, Terrell Jefferson with 28, Jonathan Cyprin 27, Wesley Woodyard 26, Joseph with 20, Earl Zoe Shorter, the rookie, with 19, DeMarcus Ware with 16, Gibson with 16, and here's the rest of the way. You guys can read for yourself. Tackles for a loss, leading this team at the moment with 9, is Linval Joseph. DeMarcus Ware with 7, Shorter with 4, Gibson with 4, Washington and Williams with 2, and then with 1, Gooden, Woodyard, Stanford, and Dieterich. Sacks, DeMarcus Ware, the $8.9 million man, leading the team with 6. Shorter and Gibson each kicking in 3. Washington, Woodyard, and Stanford kicking in the remaining ones. Picks, 2 for McCray, 2 for Gooden, 1 for Blake, 1 for Jefferson, and 1 for Cyprin. Would like to see a few more in that regard. Defensive touchdowns, meanwhile, just for this season, 3 of which came in the same game as you saw, with the exception of Terrell Jefferson, who had a pick 6, and I believe it was game 1 of the year. I could be wrong on that, though. Justin Tucker, 16 of 21, needs to be stronger. Unacceptable for any kicker in the league to be at 76%. I also don't understand it. His kick power is 96. His kick accuracy, I think we have up to 97. And his consistency is 4. I don't understand it. Brian Anger's numbers down a little bit from last year, but hey, he's on pace for less than 100 punts, which is something to be proud of just in and of itself. Kick returns, boom, not terribly interesting. Davon Armstrong doing a decent job as the secondary returner. And then punt returns, boom. Again, nothing crazy interesting along of 40 yards for Brandon Banks. Quickly now on to Pro Bowl and awards again. I like to blitz through these a little faster. The midway point season update, just because, again, they're not set in stone. This is just to give you an idea of how things are shaking up. Let's start off with the yearly awards. If the season ended today, the MVP would be Adrian Peterson of the Minnesota Vikings. One thing that we're happy to see is for the first time a Jaguar appears on this list, Juan Delian, sitting in fourth. Personally, I find that shocking. I don't understand why his numbers are that highly ranked. But we're going to take it. And check it out, Gus Bradley, speaking of fourth place, sitting in fourth place right now. I think a big thing we have going for us right now is the fact that in the past our record has always hurt us for people winning season-end awards, such as Player of the Year, whatever. Now with the 6-2 record, that's actually an asset for us. So here we go. Juan Delian ranked third for Offensive Player of the Year behind Ray Rice and Trent Richardson, which is phenomenal. He's the highest-ranked quarterback on this list, ahead of guys like Tom Brady, Joe Flacco, Ben Roethlisberger. Defensive Player of the Year, sadly, we have nobody on this list. I find that shocking. Brian Cushing, the only guy on the list for the Houston Texans, sitting at the top. Anthony Hendrick, the Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Texans right now. We don't have anybody on this list, but we don't have any rookies playing significant time in our offensive scheme. The only guy who's really getting serious time is Rob Hardy at center, and centers are never going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, sadly, in this game. And then the only other one is Davon Armstrong, who's getting some returns, some carries, but that's not going to register here, unfortunately, in this with the algorithms being what they are. Defensive Rookie of the Year at the moment, Avius Billups. We do have Earl Shorter down the list. However, the fact that he, I think, only has 3 starts at this point is obviously hurting his case there. Maybe he'll climb up as time goes on. Best quarterback at the moment, it's Juan Delian. Again, I don't quite understand this, but we're not going to argue. Let's take it if it comes to us. Running back right now, sitting in 7th, Denard Robinson, right behind Darren McFadden, and ahead of Maurice Jones-Drew, 2 guys who are former Jaguars in this series. Ray Rice scheduled to take it at the moment. Wide receiver, right now, Justin Blackmon sitting in 6th. Personally, I find that to be low. I think him scoring more touchdowns would be of help. But right now, Roddy White of the Houston Texans leading the way. Offensive lineman Luke Jokel sitting in 3rd, so he's knocking on the doorstep. The only 2 guys ahead of Marshall Yanda of the Baltimore Ravens and Dwayne Brown of the Texans. Defensive line Tamba Hali of the Chiefs leading the way. Jaguars DeMarcus Ware sitting in 7th. He's been a huge help this year. And then DBs, currently no Jaguars on the list. Jimmy Smith of the Texans leading the way. Texans leading everything, it seems, even though they're just 5-4, which I don't understand. Kickers on the list, we got nobody, which is a shame. We should really definitely, for the talent we have at the kicker position and the money we've invested, should have somebody. Pro Bowl, meanwhile, if the season ended today, our AFC Pro Bowl team would look like this. Brady, Delian, boom, at the quarterback spot. Flacco as well. Running backs, Rice, Richardson, and Charles. Fullbacks, Pryor and Rogers. Receivers, Tate, Decker, White, Blackman, hello, Gordon, Manningham, and Cribbs and Hester. Tight ends, Gronkowski, Allen, and Pitta. Tackles, Brown and Britton. Guards, Cross, that's us. Beatles, centers, Gradkowski and Jensen. Right guards, Yanda and Urbic. And right tackles, Orr and Jokel, again, us. Defensive line, we do not have any Jags. Linebacking core, we do not have any Jags. DBs, we do not have any Jags. Specialists, still no Jags. Hopefully that can change as time goes on. NFC will worry about at season's end when those are confirmed. Quick rundown of the standings coming at you at the moment. Currently, Jaguars sitting on top of the AFC South with an impressive 6-2 record, a game and a half up on the Houston Texans, who sit at 5-4. We'll go by division, starting with our own AFC South. That is the picture. Colts still in the running at 4-4. Titans have fallen off quite a bit at 2-6. AFC North, Ravens already basically won this division, 7-1. The rest of the teams already 5 losses or more. Steelers, Browns, Bengals need to seriously pull up their socks to have a chance. AFC East, Jets, Dolphins, and Pats, all within one game of each other. Certainly 1, maybe 2 playoff teams in the mix still there. Bills kind of out of it already at 2-6. AFC West, Raiders leading the way at 6-2. Chiefs at 4-4, still in the mix. Broncos and Chargers seriously need to make adjustments if they're going to have any chance. NFC North, Vikings running away with this one, 7-1. Packers at 4-4. Lions at 4-5, Bears at 3-6, NFC South, Bucks leading the way. Saints 1 game behind them, Falcons 1 game behind them, and Panthers 1 game behind them. It'll be interesting to see how the South plays out this year. NFC East, the defending champion New York Giants sitting at 5-3, 1 game ahead of the Redskins. Cowboys and Eagles bringing up the rear at 3-5. And then the NFC West, this is a very tight division. Cardinals 5-3, 49ers and Seahawks sitting at 4-4, and the Mounties, who won just 3 games all of last year, if I remember correctly, already at 3-5. So nice job by them pulling up their socks, even though they don't look like a playoff team at the moment. As a team that's growing ourselves, we have to appreciate that. Last thing is player progression and roster moves. Roster moves, very simple for this time around. We added 2 players, and they're both familiar faces. The first one is at the wide receiver position. We'll bring him up right away. We brought a gentleman in following the Cecil Shorts injury by the name of Ace Sanders. Bada boom. As I expressed last episode, did not want to cut Sanders. However, with us wanting, we had to make a decision to cut 1 wide receiver. We had 7. We needed to keep Banks for the return game. We decided to keep Fuller as a developmental guy, just a higher ceiling, a bigger body guy with more speed. We just had to make the decision to keep him around as opposed to Sanders. However, now with Cecil Shorts being placed on IR, we were able to bring in Sanders, which is great. The second hiring we made at right end was another familiar face, Andre Branch. We traded Andre Branch to the Cowboys at season start when we had signed DeMarcus Ware. We traded him in a 6th-round pick to Dallas in exchange for a first-rounder. Dallas subsequently cut him, and so we get him back. So essentially, we trade a 6th-round pick in exchange for a first-round pick from Dallas, which is hilarious. Thank you very much, Cowboys. So those 2 familiar signings back. We run down the roster really quick. Juan Delian, up to 88 from 85. For the most part, we've worked on his overall throwing accuracy, which unfortunately isn't represented here. However, his deep throws are up to 81 from 78. Medium throws up to 86 from 85. And his awareness, always a big thing for when you're simming games. He's up to 90 there from 87. Matt Scott also up to 88 from 85 in that regard. His deep ball getting prettier, up to 80 from 78. Short accuracy up to 85 from 84. Again, generally throwing accuracy the biggest thing for him, as well as Ronald Barker, in addition to some awareness, up to 86 now from 76 at the beginning of the year. He's up to an 80 overall, which is phenomenal for a rookie quarterback. Again, I think he could be quite the trade chip for us one day if that's the route we want to go. Stephen Ridley has unfortunately regressed, just like every halfback we've brought in. Unfortunately, he has not done very well. This was the case with Michael LaShore, and before him was the case with Darren McFadden. Just he's regressed, not played great on the field. Fortunately for us, Denard Robinson seems to be the answer at this position. He's up to 81 overall, same as he was at the beginning of the season. But he's just progressing so well. He's such a little speedy guy, acceleration and agility, truly elite, speed of 92, which is very nice as well. For him, we just recently upgraded him, as I mentioned earlier, to brace versus all hits. As well, his carrying is up to 90, which is phenomenal. He's been very effective for us. Up to 76 from 74. Davon Armstrong, who's also got his fair share of carries as of late. Which is great to see. For him, it's always a matter of holding on to the ball. He's yet to fumble this year, knock on wood. And then Markeith Hickman bringing up the rear, up to 74 from 73. Reese, just due to age, he hasn't regressed since the beginning of the season. He did a little bit from last year. He was a 99, now a 97. We've got his impact blocking up to the best number of his career. It was an 85 at season start, and I think in the low 80s when we first signed him, up to 89 now, which is great. Wide receivers, my goodness, we're deep here. Justin Blackman, up to 90 from the 88 at the beginning of the year. These numbers fluctuate so much, it's crazy. Crabtree down to 90 from 91. Shorts sitting at 86. He was an 86 at season start. So he's hit a bit of a plateau in his game. Drick Haskell up to 85 from 83. Fuller up to 83 from 81. Sanders sticking at 80. Banks sticking at 73. Just to bring up some particulars, we got Justin Blackman. We've mostly worked on his release, got it up to 92, which is great. He's such a strong dude at 67, which is a big number for a wide receiver. that he's hard to contain at the best at times. Crabtree, very much the same build as Mr. Blackman. For him, it's mostly just been a matter of just tweaking very little things. He came to us with phenomenal, like Blackman, phenomenal catching numbers, particularly the catching in traffic. So just working on whatever we can. His awareness, I think, at the beginning of the year was lower. It was only 86, and now it's up to 90, which is great. Cecil Shorts, mostly working on his release. His release at the beginning of this series, I think, was in the 50s. It's now up to 90. So I've got a lot of points there. Drick Haskell, always working on his hands, which is a necessity. But working on his awareness as well. His awareness was 82 at the beginning of the year. Currently sitting at 86, which is great. Corey Fuller, again, seeing big progression from him. Just 25 years of age. Again, such great physical tools. For him, his catching is up 2 to 82. Catching in traffic up to 80 from 72. Which is great stuff. Ace Sanders, we haven't worked with him yet, but we're just glad to have him back. And for Banks, just working on his carrying ability to help with his returns. Taylor Thompson up 2 points to 88 from 86. Finally, we're starting to see his work get some progression to go along with his overall progression. Derek Carrier, mostly working on his route running ability. He is finally up past the 81 overall marker, up to 83, and Ryan Otten up to 79 from 77 as our third guy. Bruce Campbell up to 89 at the left tackle spot, which is shocking. He lacks the strength of a true elite tackle, less than 90, never great, and his pass blocking, again, kind of not really there for to be an elite left tackle. That being said, his numbers are going up, despite the fact that he's allowed a lot of sacks this year. I think for him it's mostly a stamina issue. Late game, he's not doing that. So hopefully we'll be able to make him clutch soon. Marcel Jones, meanwhile, continues to grow up to 79 from 76. Left guard, Keithan Cross, what is there to be said? Just continuing to grow. His run blocking, 88. Pass blocking, 83. Impact blocking is where we've been doing a lot of work with our guys. Awareness up to 86 from 85. Just a stellar player. He's part of his growth has been inhibited because of his injuries, but that's all right. Rob Hardy up to 87 from 85 as a rookie at the midway point of the season. Phenomenal stuff. His run blocking up to 84 from 80. His pass blocking up to 79 from 76. Impact blocking up to 82. This cat is going to be unreal. Just absolutely unreal. Nothing left to be said. Jason Slowey up to 85 from 81. For him, it's mostly been an impact blocking thing. Impact blocking was in the mid-60s when we picked him up, now up to 80, which is phenomenal. Big part of what helped him at the left tackle spot, I imagine. Brandon Mosley up to 85 from 83. For him, it's been a lot of impact blocking stuff as well. Also, his pass blocking up to 82 from 79. William Campbell, run blocking up to 88 from 87. He's another guy who's got a lot of playing time this year, which is great. Up to 82 overall from 79. Nice jump for the backup there. Luke Jokel up to 92 from 90. So hard to progress these guys when they're as good as Jokel. However, his awareness up to 89 from 86. A big part of that. Also his pass blocking up to 88 from 78. Run blocking, same thing from the beginning of the year. So each of those going up one notch. Byron Bell up to 77 from 75. Thaddeus Gibson up to 87 from 86. For him, it's mostly been a tackling thing. His tackling, his play recognition, his pursuit, all of these 82s that you see are all up from 80, and we'll continue to work on that. His hit power, his strength, so much of what he does is already so good. Awareness, another 82 number. We're just working on him across the board, especially after his power moves and finesse moves got as high as they did last year. Just trying to round out his game, make him more of a run support kind of guy. Here, DeMarcus Ware down 2 points from 97. But that's all right. That's going to happen with age. Earl Shorter up 1 point to 87 from 86. And Branch sticking at 85. I love how ridiculously deep we are at these positions. Shorter already an elite player in terms of his moves. For him, biggest thing was the awareness. It was an 82 before the season. Still an 82. We got some work to do there. I thought we had upgraded that. We have not. But for him, it's a lot of it has been, some of it's been pursuit. I know that. In addition to that, he buying him some moves. I believe he didn't have any moves when he showed up, so we recently bought him the spin move, and that's where we've invested most of his points. And there you go. Brand Short or other quarterbacks, when they come into town, must just wet themselves seeing these great pass rushers we have. Joseph, meanwhile, up 1 point to 92 from 91. Williams up to 90 from 88. Martin sticking at 82. Diedrich sticking at 80, which is great to see. These guys so big, 320 plus for both of our starters. You almost never see that. Martin and Diedrich, giant men in their own right. Strength off the charts, power moves off the charts, block shedding off the charts. And I know for Williams especially, pursuit's been a big thing, tackling's been a big thing. Those numbers were quite low when he showed up. His awareness also up to 86 from 83. That's been a big deal for our guys, and that's why we're doing so well against the run. Right now, we are the second best team in the entire NFL against the run, which is phenomenal. Wesley Woodyard, 87. Down from 90. He's another guy who's very up and down. Was way down at the midway point last season, then way up by the off season, and then down again by 3 points. Stanford sticking at 81, which is weird. We seem to upgrade so much for this kid, and yet he always seems to be just at a plateaued kind of comfortable mark. I don't always understand it, but that's all right. Middle linebacker Darrell Washington again is hurt right now. He was 93 coming into the season, down to 90. Same with Ray Lewis. I don't understand why, but that's just the reality. Tackling for Darrell Washington up to 96 now from 95. Ray Lewis, 89 in that regard. He was actually just an 88 in that category when things got kicked off, but so fortunate to be on a team where we can have two great middle linebackers, a guy who can step in for Darrell Washington. Donald Butler, our developmental guy, mostly just sticking around the 81% or 81 overall mark, which is fine. Xavier Gooden, 88, up from 87. His tackling, so elite, 94. Such a physical freak with his strength, his speed, his acceleration being what it is. Such a great player. Torrey Meyer on IR, sticking at 74. Corners, Terrell Jefferson up to 91 from 90. Just an elite cover guy, 92-man coverage along with Dwayne Gratz, who's also moved up the depth chart, I should say. Demetrius McCray was playing the second spot. He has subsequently been taken over, passed in the depth chart by Gratz, who's going to be starting there from now on. Even though he's not quite as speedy, not quite the same acceleration, just a better cover guy overall. Awareness for Jefferson also up to 86 from 85. We're going to keep working on that as time goes on, and you can see just how crazy deep we are here. Greenwood up to 88 from 87. Van Dyke up to 85 from 83, and Harris at the bottom up to 83 from 82. Such a deep position, which I love to see. Antoine Blake sticking at 91. Josh Evans sticking at 82. These guys, again, mostly plateaued because they're so young. It's Luke Jokel effect. You're so young and you're so good, it's hard to even have the points to upgrade things that need to be upgraded. Very, very good position. Strong safety, we're even better. Cyprin down a couple points from 93. That's all right. We'll keep working him up. The rookie sensation's having another solid season. And Chris Brzezinski has just taken off as the backup here. Ever since signing a fully non-guaranteed contract this year, he's up to an 87 from an 85. He was in his high, I think he was low 80s last season as an 81 overall. So he's just unbelievably grown, which is phenomenal. He's going to be a special teams demon for us. Tucker up to 92 from 91. Not that it's paid off on field. And Brian Anger sticking at a 92. So that's the team. Also, check this out. The pick that we got from Dallas, currently slated to be the 5th overall pick. I don't even know where we go with that pick, if it is as high as we suspect. However, we'll see how that plays out. Feel free to leave me a note in the comments, making any suggestion you might want to make about where we go with that pick, because at the moment, I don't even know. In the meantime, we're going to... First game of the second half of the season will be against the Indianapolis Colts, our division rival, who currently sit at 4-4. As for the playoffs, right now we are in a great position to make the playoffs, win the division, maybe even get a bye, depending on how other teams in the AFC round out their seasons. But very exciting times at Jacksonville. We got the Jags up to 6-2, really poised to make their first playoff appearance since we took them over at the beginning of the 2013 season. Again, let me know in the comments what you guys think. I always enjoy getting your feedback and such. So until next time, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tuxedo T-Shirt, and I'm out.